And welcome to another edition of Cruise Control Motoring, your on-air automotive magazine. We are glad you're along for the ride. We've got a whole host of stories for you to check out, including new vehicle reveals and even where to find the cheapest gasoline, states that are selling the cheapest gasoline. Not that you're going to drive there, but anyway, Les, you are along for the ride as always. How are you doing?
Excellent, Fred. And yes, we're all looking at the prices of the gas. They don't scare me. Like, I've talked to a number of people who are really afraid. But lots going on in the industry, lots of changes constantly. So let's hit it.
Yeah, let's hit it. And we're starting off with a story from Toyota. One of their new electric SUVs, matter of fact, one of the more off-road, soft-roader, I guess you would call it, but off-road model, is as quick as the new Supra. And that's a problem at Toyota.
Well, of course. It would be like something being as fast as a Corvette at GM.
Right.
But anyway, the Ford dealers, here's a problem for you, Fred. Ford dealers are running out of F-150s.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Just as the next truck war is about to explode,
Yep.
they're running out. This is, they could run the entire corporation easily just on F-150 sales. So, wow.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that, what's causing it, and yeah, it's not a good situation over at Ford. And then BMW is reinventing luxury with its all-new 7 Series. It's packed with the next-generation tech and a theater screen for the rear seat that turns your car into a rolling cinema. I know that's something you've been waiting for a long while.
Well, I can show those Gilligan's Island reruns.
Yeah, I know it was top of your list.
Yeah. Well, as a great genius of the past, Isaac Newton said, mankind will probably use his highest technology to entertain himself.
And this time it's the back seat of a BMW 7 Series.
Yes. So anyway, over at Mercedes, they reveal their redefined C-Class with an aerodynamic fastback design. It's already pretty aerodynamic.
Yeah, fastback's making kind of a comeback. We look at that.
Yeah.
I know the Infiniti QX65 was shown with a fastback, and they are using the term fastback, so I always like that. I always like that term.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, me too. And over at Nissan, they're going back to its roots. They're bringing back parts for car enthusiasts. So if you have an older Nissan and you're looking to restore it, well, you don't have to go to the aftermarket. You just go to your Nissan dealer.
Plus, 795 horsepower Mustangs at a fraction of the price, robots building EVs, and why Gen Z would rather share a Ferrari than own one.
All that is coming up on this edition of Cruise Control Motoring.
Well, one thing I like to talk about, Fred, is speed.
Okay.
And this time Toyota is providing that speed. They have a new electric SUV that matches the Supra speed. I love this. I just love it. And of course, that's the problem. Well, for some people, I think for the SUV owners, it's not a problem. For the Supra owners who spend a lot of money for a fast car,
right?
Okay, live with it. But it's a screamer. 0 to 60 in about or less than 3.9 seconds.
Mm-hmm. That is, we're talking about the BZ Woodland, which is interesting because the Woodland is not only electric car, but it's sort of the off-roady type model of the BZ.
Yeah.
And get this, 0 to 60, as you said, 3.9 seconds. That matches a manual Toyota GR Supra. So that
Hmm.
is the top of the range model. And here's another interesting factoid. The electric vehicle, the BZ Woodland, weighs 4,570 pounds versus
Yeah,
3,343 pounds for the Supra. It's the instant torque right off the line. And
that's it.
yeah, also the fact that it doesn't have a manual transmission, the electric vehicle. Let's face it.
Well, yes, yes, that's right. You and I and everyone else take time for our muscular system to shift the gears, and modern automatics, microseconds. Uh,
Right.
so you
And
can't
and
beat
this
them.
doesn't even have a transmission. It's a
No,
probably a
no,
one
that's right.
speed
You
vehicle.
just, yeah, it's an electric motor.
Yeah.
Um, and the difference in weight, frankly, is batteries. But who cares if it's got
What
that kind of performance?
well, here's the thing. Does it matter? Now, I'm not sure it completely matters to many people because they want we talked about this even with future Hemis and things like that. You know, you look at what's going on at Dodge, and they have their
Right,
Hurricane six-cylinder engine putting out 550 horsepower in the top trim, but the Hemi puts out less. But they'll probably bring the Hemi back
right.
because people want the sound, they want the experience. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. They want the GR Supra experience, shifting gears, even if it's slower than the BZ Woodland, right?
Because it feels faster
It feels faster. You
and
feel
sounds
connected.
faster.
Yeah.
It's a bragging rights thing. It Americans, certainly in my whole life, as a society, we've been much more interested in straight line acceleration than, for instance, the more esoteric things like Italy and England and Germany, where top speed is the thing.
And you can't even use top speed. It's just a marketing ploy. You can't use it
Right.
on a road.
Yeah, you can't. Where are you going to
It's
use it?
feel. I've always said, and some of our friends in the auto industry said, you want to feel faster? Change your rear end gear ratio so it hits harder off the
Always.
line.
It's the
Because,
easiest thing to do.
yeah, adding like 200 more horsepower, you're probably never going to feel that as much on the street as making those rear tires chirp. Thanks to some tall gears. Just don't put 410s in them for the street.
Well,
Be
and
driving
of course,
around at 20 miles an hour at 6,000
don't yeah,
RPM.
don't take trips, long trips in a car with a 411 or a 512 rear axle. Uh, it's, it'll
Yeah,
be full rev at 60 miles an hour.
yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. So, what do you think? Is this an issue that an electric sort of off-roader, the BZ Woodland, has the same, if not better, performance than the GR Supra? Would that make you buy the BZ over the Supra? Let us know in the comments. But it is certainly an interesting story here.
Yeah,
More of a marketing issue, I think, than an actual
yeah,
buyer
yeah,
thing. No one's going to say like, "Oh, I'll get the BZ because it's faster." I don't know. Maybe they would. We'll have to see. But one thing they might say is, "Well, I'm going to get a Chevy or a Ram full-size pickup over a Ford." If they went to their Ford dealer and there was no F-150s,
no
this is
Fords.
a huge story, and they have reached a critical low level nationwide of new Ford F-150s at dealers. They're struggling to keep them in stock. It's caused by production slowdowns, supply issues, probably that fire at the aluminum plant that happened not that long ago. Of course, The body is aluminum, so that is a big issue. It could lead to higher prices and lost sales for sure if you go to your Ford
Yeah.
dealer and it's not there, right?
Well, that's right. Now, there have been no single cause here. It's been production constraints and supply chain disruptions. Uh, you know, all this stuff has to be shipped to the factories.
Right.
Manufacturing adjustments, and at their peak, as I recall, the statistic is Ford's factories are building a 150 every 4.5 minutes.
Wow. That
It's
that's
it's
pretty
like
impressive.
real
Yeah.
real short. So if you have any kind of constraint, imagine what that does to that number,
Yes. Yes, it
and
does.
it's
Now,
scary.
if you're going to your Ford dealer, you might see higher prices because, hey, that's what dealers do. Longer wait times and reduced choice in trims and
Yep.
configurations. As I said, maybe maybe the dealers will be sort of like the dealers around here. They order one or two models and that's it. You have two color choices.
Yeah.
Well, the other interesting F-150 story is Ford is going to wait almost a year before bringing out the next gen 150 after the Silverado is revealed. So Silverado is going to come out, and they're going to wait a product year to bring out
Huh.
the new model. And the idea is to gather intel on what people buy in the Silverado lineup. What kind of options do they order? That type of thing. The new F-150 is probably going to involve electrification, tech upgrades, and some styling things. But the fact that they're going to have an older model out there for a full year while Silverado's brand new is an interesting choice. It might just be the way the timing of the model years worked out. But what do you think? Good idea? Bad idea? It doesn't matter. People would buy the F one
It
fifty even if it's older.
it might be. To me, it's risky,
Uh huh.
but at the same time, when you're the dominant player, and Silverado typically has problems catching up, maybe you just feel that you can slow things down and wait and see what does appeal to people about the Silverado and somehow blend it in and sell even more. But there's a danger here, the same danger as this current shortage in
Yeah.
supply.
Yeah.
You just lose a sale.
Yeah. I'm sure dealers are very unhappy when someone comes in and
Yeah,
says, "Here, I have this suitcase full of cash to buy a new F 150.
yeah,
And what do you got?" And they're like, "I don't have anything." So, not a good time to be a Ford dealer when it
no,
comes to that. But let's go over to a reveal this week, and that is have a very high end car, and it is the BMW 7 Series. This is another one of the new class models. As you know, BMW is on a tear when it comes to new models. The side silhouette of this BMW 7 Series is very traditional. It's got the Hofmeier kink in the back with some chrome trim around it. It's got a nice two-tone type of paint with silver sides and a black top and roof. Very dignified side silhouette, traditional. When you look at the front, it's a little bit more futuristic. It's got that new class front end on it. It's got the thin
yeah,
headlights, kind of a flat nose, and of course the big illuminated grills. Um, and this is a full of technology. It's all new. It's available as the EV i7 or with gas, hybrid, and potentially a V8 drivetrain in the future. It's got a full-width windshield display and passenger screen, which is part of the new class look, which is a bit controversial, I think. And it has the feature you want most, a rear 31-inch theater screen,
Oh yeah.
which
Oh yeah.
supports Zoom calls.
I, it seems to me when you're sitting in the rear seat and looking at a 31-inch screen, you're kind of right up on the screen.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so,
Uh,
but apparently somebody said they want that. Um, it's also getting cylindrical battery tech for more range, and
yeah,
production is going to start real soon, July 2026. So that's, an
that's
interesting looking vehicle. I wonder if this is as hard to drive as other 7 Series of the past. Hard to figure out. What do you think?
um, I'm not sure, but for what we do know is that the 7 Series is a huge player,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not cheap.
No, no.
Don't even
Inexpensive
suggest.
is.
But the fact is, that's their flagship,
Now, it
and
features BMW panoramic iDrive with full width windshield projection display, central floating display, and a new passenger screen. So, obviously, this is very much like Mercedes, where there's a screen
right.
every 2 inches. We told you about the 8K. That is an 8K screen back there, theater screen, rear seat screen. You can do Zoom calls, Dolby Atmos audio, HDMI connectivity. And of course, it wouldn't be a new vehicle if it didn't have a welcome and goodbye light animations
Well, of course.
and ceremonial light carpet projection and immersive ambient lighting.
Okay, now we're just spreading a bit too much on the icing on the cake.
How about that
And
audio system, though? You
well,
got
the audio system, the optional system is 1925 watts, which I mean that's enough volume that would be lethal
and
in an
36
enclosed
speakers.
space.
Yeah, 36 speakers. It's like having a Marshall amp in your your back seat.
Several of them, uh,
Wall of sound
and
there.
yeah, and it would be the bass booming would be crushing your chest.
Yeah.
Uh, wow, yeah, that just I can't imagine why you would want that. I just can't.
Well, I have to say I like the two-tone with the darker color over the lighter
I
color.
do like that. It's attractive. It's elegant.
Do you think we're going to
Yeah,
see that migrate to other less expensive vehicles? I bet we will.
yeah. I'm sure we will.
It's just a way to look high end without. I mean, in this case, it is a high end vehicle, but that two tone is a way to look high end without being high end on other vehicles. But overall, I like the look. Front end will probably still be controversial. Um,
Yeah,
But you
that
look at
has
that
to.
C pillar, that sail pillar, that is classic BMW. You can see it.
Yes, it is. The front end still has to grow on me.
Okay, but
Not there yet.
yeah, well, just fold down that 31-inch 8K display, and I think
With
you.
yes, with zoom capability. So
Hey, you could do the whole show from the back
we
seat.
could do the show. Yes,
Mobile unit, the BMW
that
7
yeah, that,
Series mobile unit.
that would be our mobile unit,
Mm,
um, which is going to be very expensive
yeah.
to do mobile shows in that.
Well, one vehicle that will be a little less expensive, I'm sure. We don't have pricing on it, but this is the Hyundai Ioniq 3. This is like the EV3 over at the folks at Kia. So this is Hyundai's version of it. This was revealed this week. Up to 308 miles of range, fast charge from 10 to 80% in 29 minutes, new Android-based infotainment system, and set up for real-world drivability. Good-looking vehicle, certainly Ioniq looking. What do you think? The rear spoiler, I know that's got you jonesing for that. It is
Gotta
the
have that.
Aero hatch design. I think that's probably, we're going to see that term used throughout the industry. A coefficient of drag of 0.263. And then
That's very slippery.
Slippery, yeah. 214 miles of standard range and 308 miles of long range. AC charging up to 22 kilowatts. It's got a cabin with a flat floor design. Seats 5 adults comfortably. Cargo capacity of 15.6 cubic feet. And an additional underfloor mega box storage. So this is an N-line, believe it or not, an N-line electric vehicle. I'm going to say I have an interesting idea for this. Bonneville. What about taking it to Bonneville? I think.
I wonder. It's funny. I can't think offhand of any car company that's done that other than the original GM EV1.
Well, it's slippery enough to do this, and of course you can certainly bump the power up. I think it would be cool to see this on the Bonneville Salt Flats. Of course, you take those side view wing mirrors off, but very slippery already. You could put a giant wing on the back if you wanted at Bonneville. Hey, if you're listing Hyundai, this is the idea, I think. I think this would be a very, very cool vehicle. We have an interview with Kia's version of this, the EV3 of the designer of this, so you can check that out online because at our YouTube page at Cruise Control Motoring, and I think this is going to be quite the vehicle and an N-line version no less. So we'll have to see when this comes out how people go for it. There's a lot of talk, Les, that now is the time to buy an electric vehicle. That the fact that even after all the incentives are gone and many manufacturers are not continuing on with certain electric models, but what do you think? What do you think on that? Is this the time to buy electric vehicles? Is this a good time?
Well, an awful lot of people think it's the time. The local news here this morning in the D.C. area, electric vehicle sales are up 20%.
Wow. Is that?
And it's all about the gas prices, which seems to me to be a very short-sighted reason. But
I kind of think that's the way a lot of people buy cars.
I think they do.
They just think about this week and nothing beyond that. It's sort of like saying, wow, I'm moving this week. I should buy a Class 8 tractor trailer. And then you,
exactly.
then you have it.
Yeah.
Of course, that's ridiculous. But
I mean, I can certainly understand it if your car is on its last legs and you just simply have to get rid of it and get something. Okay. But if you're driving a large SUV or something and you're paying here, $5 a gallon for premium. And you say, well, I've got to get an electric large SUV to replace it.
Like an EV9 or something.
I don't know how you're doing the math on this thing, but
maybe they're not.
You're not saving any money.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Even with that, we're seeing this happen. We've seen a lot of vehicles be canceled or just completely pulled before they ever went into production. Jeep announced this week its Wagoneer S, the electric version of its large SUV. It's a 2026 model. They're taking the year off for 2026.
Yeah,
It's not meeting expectations, and it returns updated for 2027. So, not unlike the ID Buzz over at Volkswagen, they took 2026
right.
off and burned down some inventory that's there. I mean, this is just another tool in the arsenal of automakers trying to figure out what to do with EVs. Um, it's a very turbulent time. I mean, if they all of a sudden take off, it's gonna be a time where they're like, wait a minute, we switched to hybrids. Now we have to switch back to EVs. I mean, it's the key
Yeah.
is to have it
Uh,
be totally flexible. And if on Tuesday people want EVs, you build EVs. And if on Wednesday they want hybrids, you build hybrids.
yeah. But right now, I think EV sales are going to continue to accelerate upwards.
Well, I think also the other thing, at least from my standpoint, you have to realize the infrastructure is not coming anytime soon for more chargers. So you got to charge
Yeah.
at home and use it around
Yes.
town. I just don't think that is going to be building out anytime soon. So that is kind of the bigger point than the cars themselves. And hey, maybe dip your toe in. You plenty of used deals on EVs, so maybe that is the way
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah. To answer your initial question, I think this is the right time to buy a used EV.
Yeah.
Uh, Although the prices are going to start cranking up real fast. Yeah, it won't surprise me in the least if Jeep announces a couple weeks from now that they've re engaged the Wagoneer EV because people are saying, "Well, I want one," and,
Yeah.
and and all of a sudden their product managers say, "Okay, crank up the assembly line again."
Maybe they just
It's
got to build them and leave them sit.
you've got to build them.
Yeah. Um, eh, yeah, and a lot of these vehicles were in the pipeline. You talk about the Jeep Recon
Yeah,
and that. A lot of they almost were saying when they introed it, like, yeah, we might not sell a lot, but that's okay. But I don't know. It's such a strange time. I just
it's a very strange time. I've never experienced anything like this in the past. Um, I'm glad I'm not a product planner
no.
for, because I don't know what I would be guessing, and I think it is guessing.
Well, they have some good news over at Infiniti. They just started production of their QX65, and this is one of the vehicles that they say is kind of just the harbinger of what's to come from the brand. I had a chance to look at this at the New York Auto Show. They're basically remaking the brand, and this week, the QX65 began production and in the U.S. and it is rolling out of the Smyrna Vehicle Assembly Plant. Two-thirds of Infiniti's lineup is now assembled in the U.S. So people might count out this brand, but look at that number: two-thirds built in the U.S. Guess what that means? No tariffs and
That's
lower
right.
costs. And hey, you don't have to worry about shipping stuff different places. And it's a good-looking vehicle. Frankly, I saw it up close. So I think it is just an exciting story on the industry. You can't count anyone or any brand out. And looking at what's going on at an Infinity, that's pretty amazing. I think it is
Yeah,
maybe the start of the
and
rebirth of that brand and give it some direction.
Infinity has always been a really nice, classy brand. So I think this is going to attract a lot of people. I love that swoopy rear seat pillar.
Yeah, fastback. That
Uh,
is what they are calling it, a
Fastback. Yes.
fastback. They
Why am
are
I reluctant to
they're
say it?
well,
I used to own
I don't know.
fastbacks. Yeah,
I don't know why you're reluctant to say
I
it.
don't either.
But yeah, it's a crazy time. Now we'll talk now about Mercedes. They're bringing out the C class. They introed it this week, and this is an all electric C class, fully electric, next gen C class, up to 473 miles of range, ultra fast charging, 200 miles in 10 minutes. That
That's
is
really
impressive.
fast.
Yep. The new M-Bucks Hyper Screen 39-inch display. That's bigger.
Okay. Now listen, Mercedes and BMW. Stop going to Best Buy and rating their TV set.
That's right.
Uh,
I want an 85-inch diagonal screen mounted on the
yeah,
roof.
yeah, with Dolby sound and
Oh my.
3D.
Okay. The whole dashboard is a screen.
Yeah.
So, but guess what? It is also a fastback when you look at the design of this.
Yes.
So this is a kind of a trend in the auto industry. I think this is a good-looking vehicle. It has optional rear axle steering up to 4.5 degrees, which is a lot actually for uh, rear axle steering. Airmatic air suspension, get it. That is a great great ride on a vehicle. They call it coupe-like silhouette, which is the old way of saying fastback.
It's very fastbacky to me.
Yeah,
And because my car is a coupe like,
coupe-like.
um, bordering on fastbacky, and it's nowhere near as radical as that.
Mm,
So yeah, and back to the range, 473 miles
yeah,
is a whole day of driving. It's
and 202 miles of range in 10 minutes. If you can find the right charger, that's the
that's really quite that's quite impressive.
yeah, yeah. Wheelbase is increased 3.8 inches over the previous model. That, my friends, makes a big difference. Improved headroom and legroom. Cargo space includes trunk and front trunk frunk. Um, MBOS operating system over the air upgrades. AI powered virtual assistant. Augmented reality head up display. Navigation
Yes.
with electric intelligence, meaning range. You'll find your range and a charger and all that. It's going to arrive at the U.S. dealerships in the first half of 2027. So this is the 2027 model. Good job. I think just seeing
Yeah.
this, it looks
You
pretty
know,
incredible.
I have to give them credit here. This is something that will attract a lot of potential buyers.
Yeah. Now, once again, would they do this knowing the current, make it all electric, knowing the current situation of people buying electric vehicles, or you just
Uh,
have to stay
hmm.
the course, right? I mean, I guess there's
I
no.
would, yeah. I think they had made that decision. Yes, we're going to go ahead. So yeah, I think. Will they sell 50,000 of them? I don't know.
Hmm,
They do sell these around the world, so
yeah.
uh, they 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 have a plan, and they're not going to tell us what it is, but I think it's fairly safe.
Well, let's
I think
move
the
over.
range will do a
We'll
lot.
will really get people. Yeah. Well, let's move over to something completely different, as we love to do on Cruise Control Motoring. Let's take a look at some information we have from Hyundai. We have some pricing on the Hyundai Elantra N TCR edition, which is quite an affordable, fun vehicle. Carbon fiber swan neck rear wing. I know you need one of those along with your 39-inch TV in the back. Lightweight 19-inch forged alloy wheels, good-looking wheels from the factory. Factory wheels have gotten a lot better looking. Remember how they used to look goofy and crappy and you wanted to take them right off? These are much better looking wheels. N performance braking system, Alcantara interior. So pricing for this, and this is even beyond the Elantra N. This is the TCR edition that gives you that big wing. Starting at $39,250 for manual transmission. Yes, I said manual transmission.
Wow. That's for the 7 buyers who are going to drive a manual.
And $40,750 for the dual clutch. It has celebrated 6 consecutive TCR manufacturer championships in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. Limited production, and that probably means price upgrades at your
yes.
local dealer. To me, just a little too wild for the street with that big wing. But other than that, I love the N series vehicles from Hyundai.
They are always impressive. Now, bear in mind, just the base Elantras, regular old Elantra, is almost half the cost.
Yes, we have full pricing, actually.
Right.
Oddly, this is 2026 pricing that was not out yet for this. So this is, you are right. Let's break it down. Also a great car. You can get a Elantra SE 2-liter front-wheel drive car, $22,625.
And it's a good car. It's a fun car.
Yeah. And then you move on up, Elantra SEL Sport Premium, $25,070. Elantra Limited, $27,175. Elantra N Line, which is like the light version of the N, which is fun with a 1.6-liter turbo, $29,400. There are a lot of fun there for under $30K, right?
Yep.
And then you have hybrid models, right?
Then you get hybrids, the hybrid blue is $25,450. The SEL Sport, $27,425. It's not much more. And the hybrid limited, $29,800. So all of those less than $30,000.
And then you jump into the performance models. Now, we told you about this TCR, but you can still get an Elantra N manual for $35,100. Basically, a little less edgy, no big wing on the back. And then an Elantra N DCT, dual clutch transmission, $36,600. A lot of fun for that price. And then, as we told you, TCR manual, $39,250. And Elantra N TCR edition dual clutch, $40,750. That is a lot of models for one car.
It's an awful lot, especially for what used to be considered sort of a lower end car. It wasn't a price leader or anything like that, but it was an affordable first car for a lot of people. And these things have all the standard driving assistance features: forward collision avoidance, lane keeping, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and even available infotainment display, 10.25, and a Bose premium audio. I'll bet it doesn't have 1,900 watts, Fred.
And 36 speakers and a 39-inch screen. But that's okay.
That's right.
Actually, that's all okay. It doesn't have that.
That's right.
I'm not upset about that. Well, one story that's coming up, since we're talking about a sedan, this is going to make you very happy. There's a story this week about sedans coming back in car buzz. It's talking about after years of declining popularity,
Yep. Yep.
sedans are making a comeback, and it's because they can charge less for them. They can charge less for them, lower pricing. It can offer better fuel economy. And they're saying that this shift could basically transition us back to sedans. Remember, you and I on Cruise Control Motoring would talk about entry level sedans. That was entry level or near luxury entry level sedans. That was
Exactly.
the big segment, the big kahuna. Um, and I saw an article float by on the web a couple of weeks ago about the Ford Taurus coming back, and I thought, wow, are they really doing it? I know they wanted to bring a car back, but it was for the Middle Eastern market, and it looked good. It was an update, an updated model. I thought, why can't they bring that here? All-wheel drive, nice new design, updated electronics. Um, I don't know. Do you think we will see sedans come back? I mean, you look at that Elantra lineup, certainly.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think so. I think people are just reassessing their lives. They're, I think society goes in these waves where, uh, you like our parents' generation was the very frugal generation. Obviously, they lived through the Depression and the war.
right. So they knew,
Um,
like, if you have something,
we,
don't blow it.
yeah, we were the we'll buy anything and put it on credit generation, um, which eventually comes back to bite you.
Eventually, you have to pay for it, and it costs more than what you
Yeah,
bought it for.
eventually you have to pay. And I've read a bunch of stories about the younger generations being not stingy, but just more frugal in their food, in their homes, and not trying to just buy huge amounts of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have a story about that coming up about it's an interesting contrast on that, and we can get to that, and it is about what I call fractional ownership of high-end
Yes,
vehicles like Ferraris and others. And it has to do with just what you're saying. They really want very high-end cars, but they don't want to spend $300,000 to have it. They just want a shared ownership, and groups are pooling money for Ferrari and Porsche access to avoid the high cost of purchase, insurance, maintenance. I mean, when you split that up over, let's say, 10 people, it becomes much more affordable. Um, so I wonder if there's a business model here for people to set this up, lawyers to set this up, and because you just can't say, "Hey, we're going to buy the red Ferrari and it's 300,000, so your cut is 30," and they're going to say, "Well, how often do I get to use it? What's
right.
my monthly fee for, my
What's my
share of maintenance,
insurance sharing?
insurance?" How do you even do that? I mean, if you have fractional ownership, you can't say,
Well,
oh, Les will have the insurance and so drives it and he wrecks it.
well, no, you would have one insurance policy with
Bunch of
multiple
drivers.
drivers listed.
Yeah.
And of course, if one of those drivers has a bad record,
Everyone goes
then
down with them.
your insurance cost is going to be higher. And I personally, I don't know how um, I would ever feel comfortable with sharing a car with two or three other people.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I'd ever agree on when I'm going to get it,
Right.
uh, and all of that. I think I would rather rent a car than do that.
Yeah. Well, that and some of these people buy these cars. Another thing is you could rent it out on Turo or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I mean, fractional ownership. That's what it's called. It's
Yep.
sort of like a timeshare. The biggest analogy I can see is in the private aircraft. People don't
Yes.
they want a nice plane, but they don't fly all the time. But they don't want to buy a plane and have it sit there. So, this is sort of the same thing. Will it catch on? It's big in Japan right now, but I don't know. I'd like to put that out to the listenership and see what they think. Would you do that? Would you go into like a fractional ownership of a Ferrari or other cars? And I believe there are clubs that do this. I believe there's one in Manhattan that
Oh, yeah.
you get to take out the McLaren, or hey, you signed up and you get to take out the Aston Martin, and it's a way of owning things and not having to worry about them, so to speak, right?
I would be very interested to know what a good cross section of people feel about that.
Right, right. Yeah, it would be interesting for sure. Well, we know this pickup trucks with the best resale value. Any idea what the pickup truck with the best resale value is? Is it Ford, Chevy, Ram? What do you think?
Well, I happen to know the answer to that,
Okay.
and it's really not a surprise. It's the Toyota Tacoma.
Oh yeah, yeah. It is
It's a
ranked the.
Toyota. It's,
It's a Toyota. The
it,
Toyota Tacoma is a Toyota.
yeah, and
Reliability, durability, high demand,
yep,
and its buyers spending in the $40,000 to $60,000 range. It dominates for resale value and low depreciation. So this is the one with the best resale value. It's a truck and it's a Toyota. I guess that's where the
yeah.
story goes there.
But what's interesting here is that we're talking about resale values, and then we're also talking about buyers spending 40 to 60,000. Now, is that up front, or is that for a used one?
Well, some of the used vehicles are very expensive. They're very
Man,
expensive, and they have
man.
high mileage on them too. But they'll say like, "Oh, well, that's just getting broken in at $150,000, 150,000
Well,
miles."
yeah, it's broken is a word.
It's carefully patinaed. How's that? It's carefully patinaed.
Gently worn.
There you go. Gently worn. I like that. I like that.
Gently worn.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about gas prices. What are you paying for gas these days?
I just filled up yesterday, and regular was 3.99.
Yeah, I filled up the day before. It was 398. So we're kind of synced up there. Um, but I also recommend figure out if you go to one gas station or even a few, there are loyalty plans where you can save up to
Yeah,
10
yeah.
cents a gallon. So it's a good thing to check out. The one I'm going to has now, the station I like closed, and that was very simple. You put your phone number in and you got the discount. This new one has an app where you have to put in pump numbers, and it just doesn't work. It just sits there spinning on the phone. So that's not the best setup. But you can check out a number of a number of gas retailers for that. But cheapest states, mostly in the Midwest and the South. The low cost states include Minnesota, Georgia, South Dakota, Missouri, and Iowa. And it has to do with regional taxes, fuel blends. Those are the big drivers of the gas price. So I believe you're moving to South Dakota next week, right?
Well, no. Uh,
Not that there's
It's
anything wrong with South Dakota. I'm just saying
no, it's
you're
just that
just luck
rather
out if
than
you're in one of those states:
go
Minnesota,
to the
Georgia,
expense
South
of
Dakota,
moving,
Missouri, Iowa. Yeah.
I'll just buy an EV.
Yeah. Well, there is that app we discussed last week on Cruise Control Motoring, the gas index, where it tells you
Yeah,
yes, the gas is cheaper at that station, but if you have half a tank or less, it's not worth it to go there because you're going to spend more money getting there, burning gas, than you will in what you save. It does the math for you, right?
it's the cheapest states here just makes me realize. Wait a second, you've got Oklahoma and Texas where they actually produce gas.
Right.
Uh, so normally, where gas is refined and produced, the prices for gas are less, unless taxes are higher or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah. Well, certain
surprised,
states tax different things, and they might
yeah,
tax gas more. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the price in, and then certain states like California tax everything, and it is more expensive all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
There's a guy, watch a car guy, you would know his name, and he goes, "I just filled up. It was $8 a gallon. Why? It's California." That's what he says.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so right now, as I say, and where gas prices are just hovering under $4 a gallon. Um, but use one of those, the gas index or gas buddy, and join one of those loyalty things, from your manufacturer, and hunt around for the price. There's a big difference in gas prices, really significant difference. And some stations just really jack it up because of their location. They're right off the highway or something like that. Uh,
right.
so do a little shopping, but don't drive to Iowa to fill up your tank because it's cheaper.
No, do some shopping and you know consolidate your trips.
Yes, 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 indeed, indeed. Hey, let's talk a little bit about tech. We've got a bunch of tech stories here. Um, and Magna is and has come out with an EV range extending system. It's designed to reduce range anxiety without full hybrid complexity. It could allow EVs to go hundreds of extra miles, and it targets lower cost versus full battery upgrades. So smaller battery and a range extender. Magna would sell it to other manufacturers. They would sell it as a vendor, and this means that it would be much more available to other manufacturers that don't want to build their own. We don't have much information on this, what the engine is,
No,
but I see this as a future thing because you're going to be able to reduce the cost of an electric vehicle by putting a smaller battery in it. Even if you put a range extender in it, an engine's going to be smaller than cost less than the battery, probably than a bigger battery. What do you think?
well, yes, and what Magna is doing, and we don't know what it is, the device, but it's a energy source, a supplemental energy source. So it could be,
Small
it's going to be
nuclear
electric.
reactor, I think, is probably.
Uh, yes, and short of a nuclear reactor, it's going to be either a quick charge system, like you buy these little devices that are super high charge to start your car. It could be a small capacitor bank
Oh, that's interesting.
that would just zap another few kilowatts into your battery. But whatever it is, it's a range extender.
Yeah, yeah. They are keeping it under wraps, and we will let you know what it is when we find out more. Let's stay on the talking tech train here. And this was a very interesting one about and it's hard to explain really, but it's self-healing material, and it can repair itself up to 1,000 times, and it could be used
Okay.
in areas beyond cars like aircraft, wind turbines. It reduces maintenance costs and downtime and could last decades or even centuries. Uh, so this is Source's Daily Galaxy. The scientists have developed a new self-healing composite material capable of repairing damage, as I said, 1,000 times over. What do you think of this? I mean, you build this into things like engine bearings and, uh, you know, body panels and all kinds of things. Um, we've talked about self-healing paint, right? But this is even
Right.
bigger.
I think it's very much the same technology where you have microstructures that grow back together. They're not alive
No, they're not
uh,
alive. It's not like
like a
they
cell.
they grows a scab and then
Right.
it's better.
But
Y-
if you think about it, you've got if you slap a bunch of paint on something and watch the paint, it tends to grow into a nice flat surface
right.
where it's attracted to itself, um, and spreads out, and that's a very simple explanation. But there are these materials that will essentially recombine. Glass, which is not one of these materials, but
No.
when you cut glass, when you're planning to cut glass, and you run your little cutter over it, if you leave that for a while, glass being a super cooled liquid tends to heal itself. So
Hmm.
you will no longer be able to snap the glass at that
Score.
line
Yeah.
because it has grown back.
Now, this is kind of in the future, but wouldn't this be great for bumper covers and things like that that
Oh
rip and
yeah,
tear, and it would just it would
yes.
be interesting to watch. And we don't have any details on how okay, could you
No,
use it
we
for
are.
that?
Uh,
And would it how would you actually see it healing like you rip it and then the rip like kind of comes together again? I don't know. It's just interesting futuristic ideas that
yeah,
really really go deep into the future. So I kind of like it, don't you?
this and of course the military applications are huge.
Well, that you think of aircraft that gets
Yeah,
damaged, exterior skins. This would be amazing. That it would
yeah.
heal itself, and that was one big use that they talked about. Uh, let's just stay on. Let's just stay on tech here and talk about robots. One of my favorite things, humanoid robots. We know, I believe Mercedes is using them in South Carolina already. Now, BMW is testing humanoid robots in its factory aimed at cutting EV production costs. Robots handle repetitive and physical tasks and are more flexible than traditional automation, and they signal a shift towards AI driven manufacturing. They're humanoid robots, and unlike traditional robotic systems, humanoid robots are designed to operate in environments built for humans, allowing them to perform a wider range of tasks without requiring major factory redesigns. Let's face it, you don't want to be around a robot that's doing welding or
No,
but these humanoid robots can intermix with you. Maybe they'll even hang out with you at the lunchroom. What do you think? I picture one with like a Chevy cap on and
right. So
work
yeah,
clothes.
yeah, the humanoid robot can detect something. It's not programmed specifically to
Maybe it goes
to
for
go through this
beers
motion and so
at
on.
the
But it
local
can. Oh, okay,
bar
okay.
after the
Yeah,
shift with all the guys. What do you think? Do you think it would do that?
Um, I think that sort of technology is where we want to be with making things where you end up without flaws.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
so we will talk about that. Another interesting story this week from SciTech Daily. Scientists, and this kind of goes with, I meant to do this right after our story on self healing things, but this goes with that story somehow. It's from SciTech Daily. Scientists wanted to know for years, why is rubber so strong? And think about it, self healing technology, what about that in a tire? That
Yeah.
would be great. You get a puncture, it immediately fixes itself. Well, and I'm not talking about run flats. I'm talking about you put
No,
a rip in your
rubber.
side your sidewall and it heals itself. So, well, anyway, according to this article, scientists have solved a 100-year-old mystery behind rubber strength. The key ingredient, carbon black particles, basically engineered soot. It becomes strong because it fights against itself internally. So it braces itself, basically. The discovery came after 1,500 simulations, 15 years of computing time, and it could lead to longer lasting tires, safer aircraft components, and more efficient materials. And it could positively impact the $260 billion global tire industry. They form Particles of rubber form internal networks, and the particles act like an adhesive, and particles simply fill the space. Isn't that interesting? South Florida did this. University of South Florida did
Yeah,
this study.
this I've never wondered why rubber is what the way it is, but uh, I've always enjoyed the fact that it's so resilient. I owned a slingshot for about 30 years, and the rubber it took that long to deteriorate.
Yeah. How did they ever decide to make rubber tires? Obviously, they were wood before that, or steel, or whatever,
Right.
but obviously needed to be something that had air in it or whatever. How did they ever decide on rubber? That's
Well, they started back. It was like the 1906, 1904, with metal, wood wheels with a metal band, but then they put a thick layer of just solid rubber on it.
right.
Um, and then at some point, somebody, maybe it was Goodyear or Harvey Firestone, somebody figured, if we inflated the rubber,
Better
the
ride.
the wheel everything would drive so much smoother. Let's look into this. And
I just don't know how they picked rubber in the beginning. But
well, because rubber was known uh, for,
what did people
I
use
don't
it
know,
for?
a
What
couple
did they use
thousand
it for
years.
before tires?
It's a
Yeah.
natural product that was sold around the world.
Maybe they used it for roofing or something.
They would uh, sometimes, well, I don't know what they used it for back in the Egyptian days,
You weren't there.
but I'm sure we could look it up. I'm sure there were lots of uses for it.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
think I'm
if nothing
thinking
else,
probably
maybe
roofing
little
or water.
balls that they would play with or something. But it's a it grows naturally, and of course its natural color is white.
Yes.
But yes, I will. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. But I find it great science to look at what, why something works as well as it does without without just saying, well, that's it. It works great, but we don't know why. Hey, let's go over to Ford. Is the Ford Mustang Dark Horse SC kind of a deal? We talked about this vehicle a while back. It's got the supercharged 5.2 Predator engine, 795 horsepower, 660
Yep.
pound-feet. It starts at about 103,000 up to 170,000 fully loaded. Now you might say, wow, for a Mustang? But when you compare it to the GTD Mustang, which has that exotic suspension and things like that, you get 97% of the power of the GTD for one-third the price. That's a deal, Les Jackson. Go out and
That's a
get one.
deal. That is a deal. Again, it's a specialized product that most people don't need,
But they
can't
want.
afford,
Yes.
but they want it. And the professionals definitely want it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder why it's that good of a deal.
Well, it's just it works out horsepower wise is the big thing. By the way, weird factoid, the track pack, which is optional on the SC, uh, puts down 620 pounds of downforce.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
two average Americans sitting in the back seat.
well, Formula One cars put down 2,000 pounds of downforce.
Oh, wouldn't that slow you down? That much downforce? I mean, it
It
keeps your
does.
tires
It does.
stuck, but it's like carrying
Well,
a 1 ton weight in your race car.
well, yes, but it's I think it's for very short duration situations. Um, but it's been well known and well talked about for several decades that if you took a Formula One car through the Holland Tunnel at 200 miles an hour and the tunnel was completely smooth inside, the car would stick to the top of the tunnel.
Hmm.
Not with me driving it, it
That would be a
wouldn't.
problem. Yeah.
But
Hey,
if the laws of physics say that it would.
well, let's go over to Nissan. Nissan announced a very interesting thing this week, the Nissan Heritage Parts Program. It's going to be expanded for U.S. Enthusiasts, this according to The Drive. A full heritage parts and resto mod business. U.S. enthusiasts will be included in this. It could bring back parts for cars like the 300ZX, all the Z cars, and Datsun era models, possibly factory back resto mod builds. We've seen this at like Jaguar and Aston
Yep.
Martin and others, Land Rover. Funny that this would catch on. I guess they want a part of that $30 billion aftermarket business, right?
That's a big market, and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's wonderful because the parts you get from them are going to be the same, the same specifications and the same fit
Right.
as the original part. You're not hoping that some piece that stamped metal from Mexico is going to fit
Sort of fits, but there's a big gap.
or sort of fits. You have to modify and
None of the holes
tweak.
line up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nissan said it is, glad to show off this program, but it admits it's behind competitors like Toyota and Honda. I wondered if we'll see in the future more licensed bodies, like Mustang does licensed bodies, so you can literally
right.
build a new 1965
Yeah,
Mustang.
if you have a VIN number, you own a VIN number,
Right.
you can build the Mustang.
I have a question for you. Does that mean then junkyards should save VIN numbers? Like just cut
Yes,
a little section of the car out
I
and have a pile of thing. You can get rid of the other cars rusted away.
I have said that for years. They should do that.
Yeah. You don't have to have a big, you can have it on a shelf somewhere and take a picture of it. Uh, I wondered that. I've seen Mustang do it. I wonder why we haven't seen Camaros do that. Yes, you can get licensed parts and that, but you still have to go out currently, the best of my knowledge, and find a
Yeah.
hulk of a car. And we've seen this on graveyard cars. They'll find like a roof and a pillar and a little bit of the VIN code, and they'll create a whole car around that because it was a rare car, which is not, unless you can get $1 million for it, it's not doesn't make sense to do that.
Yes.
There's always something a
Um,
little bit better than that you could start
that's
with.
right. When I restored my Jaguar XKE, I replaced. I well, I bought it in the dead of winter. I didn't have a lift to go under it. I knew that it was rough, and I ultimately replaced, welded about 80% of the sheet metal
Wow,
in it. I mean, replaced that.
that's
So
you basically made a new car.
yes, I made a new car.
That is incredible. Well, the folks at Nissan have even suggested the idea of offering kits to convert modern cars into retro style versions using original Datsun branding. Interesting
It's a
stuff.
great idea. This is just a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we covered a lot this week. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Cruise Control Motoring. Don't forget to give us a like, a subscribe, a follow on all our social media platforms. It really helps us out. It's time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We are going to see you down the road.